Overclockers, and welcome to our third ever podcast episode. My name's Briony, and I'm here with Jacob.
Hello.
In this episode, we're going to be talking about The Witcher 4, cosmetic microtransactions in games relating to League of Legends, and when should you upgrade your PC? I think we'll kick things off with Witcher 4 because Jacob is a huge Witcher fan, which is why I've got him on this episode to talk about the new Witcher 4 trailer. It was actually more of a Unreal Engine 5 tech demo. I think they said it wasn't actually gameplay, which was quite interesting because it looked like gameplay to me, but I'm just wondering if maybe they're going to change quite a few things because I guess we don't know a launch date yet, right?
No, I think the rumours are sort of another 3-4 years. We're thinking it's still going to be a while. Obviously, CD Projekt Red announced they're working on Cyberpunk 2 as well, behind closed doors, so they're probably stretched quite thin across the two games because they're not exactly small games to produce.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think so. They announced that it was a PS5 demo, so it was like standard PS5, 120 FPS, and obviously, yeah, it's on Unreal Engine, and it's safe to say it looked insane. It looked absolutely phenomenal.
It did, yeah. I think if they were planning on showing off Unreal Engine 5, they definitely did that because it looked incredible. And just the environment, all the NPCs, the character models, when they showed the strip down of the horse and it had the muscles underneath the skin, I was just looking at it it looks like such a massive upgrade.
Yeah,
I know
absolutely.
Witcher 3 just had its 10-year anniversary, right? So it's been out quite a while now. So obviously the next game was going to look pretty incredible upgrade-wise, but they've definitely outdone themselves.
Well, I think with The Witcher 3 as well, it dropped, like you say, 10 years ago. They did do the remaster, I guess, that's on the current gens and on PC as well. And that was night and day over the original Witcher 3. There's the bit at the start of the game where you walk out onto the balcony at Kaer Morhen and you just look out over the mountains and stuff, and it's insane that that's a 10-year-old game. Even if it is a remaster, the quality is so crazy. I think we've seen the current generation of consoles be pushed, but we're still waiting on that next gen, true next gen title to really push them. So this is going to be, I think, the good between this and GTA 6, which obviously is coming next year. They're going to really start pushing these consoles to their max. But it was reassuring to see this was on the default PS5, not the Pro, and it still looked as good as it did.
Yeah, I'm surprised by that because we know that the existing Unreal Engine 5 games that are out right now aren't that well optimized. So even on super high-end, a 4090, 5090, people aren't getting great FPS, particularly if you don't turn on things like DLSS 4. You're only getting 50 or 60 FPS at ultra settings. That is at 4K, but it seems to be quite unoptimized right now. But I guess in that tech demo, they were also showing ways how they've helped with that in order to make it run better on a PS5.
Yeah, I think it's being kind of considered a bit of a partnership between the two. CD Projekt Red are helping push Unreal Engine in the right way and vice versa. They're kind of working around one another. And a game that's going to be as big as The Witcher 4 is, I think it's the perfect litmus test for that, to test what the engine's really capable of. And the internet, a lot of people are concerned about micro stutters and stuff because that's the common thing with Unreal Engine 5, is these micro stutters. And the tech demo looked really good. It's always hard to be super excited about tech demo because it's exactly that. It's pre-rendered and stuff. So it's kind of, is that what we're going to see in 3 years? No one's entirely sure. I know with The Witcher 3, the original tech demo got there's the bit at the start of the game where Geralt and Vesemir are walking down past the hanging tree, and you look off in the distance, and the pre-rendered version versus what we got 10 years ago was very different.
Yeah.
The view distance, the smoke and stuff. So you've kind of got to take stuff with a pinch of salt, but we're getting to that point now with games where we're seeing we can't go much further. Games aren't getting better and better generation on generation because we've kind of maxed everything out, I think. And now companies are looking at their AI instead because they know graphically they can't go much more.
Yeah, I must say the NPC interactions they showed off in that tech demo were incredible. Where the way that when you push through the crowd, it actually affects they called it a chain reaction effect, didn't they? Where you knock the apples down and then the pigs come running to eat the apples and the children go to pick them up. Or if there's something happening on the stage in the village, for example, then you get a big crowd of NPCs. Or there was someone ordering fish and it actually looked like a proper interaction.
Yeah.
So it was really nice to see that. I think it's going to make the game feel a lot more immersive. So if you do happen to stand still and look around you, you actually feel like you're in a living space.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's always one of those things where you see things with like rose-tinted glasses. If you go back to some of the older story games, like my mind goes to the old Assassin's Creed, right? Like Assassin's Creed 2, you could throw the money on the ground and the characters would run over and grab it, right? That's kind of the similar vibe. But I visibly remember now, or vividly remember, the characters, like the models would run over and then they would like turn and sink on the spot to get into the correct position to do the animation. Whereas now we're seeing like they don't need to do that. Like everything is, like you say, it's that chain reaction. And the good thing about The Witcher 3 was some of the set pieces in the game. So like the attack on Kaer Morhen, or like some of the cities that you go to, there's such huge environments, and like knowing that they're going to be even more alive in this game, in something that is like one of the biggest RPGs, I think is really exciting. To not feel that like bloated kind of fatigue that people feel. We joked before we started the podcast, there's an achievement on Steam for completing The Witcher 3, and I think it's like 20-ish% have got that achievement of people who own the game, which is crazy to think about when it's sold as many copies as it has. But
like millions of people, and hardly anyone's actually completed
and
it.
I don't think that speaks to the game being bad, obviously regarded as one of the best RPGs of all time. It's more just, it's so big, it is quite daunting. And if they can nail in the environments and the NPCs, the villagers and all that sort of stuff all under one thing, I think it will just help create a succinct like experience for players that they'll actually be excited to keep playing. For the 100+ hours, no doubt that it will be.
Yeah, I'm guilty. I'm one of those people that kind of started Wild Hunt and didn't really even get halfway.
Yeah,
it's beautiful, amazing. Like it's great, particularly like the remastered version. Great for testing your hardware. It's a great benchmarking game. Used to use it for benchmarking a lot. But yeah, hopefully with like The Witcher 4, and I think with everything feeling more alive, and you've got an open world that actually feels lifelike as opposed to maybe feeling a bit empty, just big and a bit empty. Will make it even more exciting to play.
As a fan as well, investing in series stories is really exciting, because we've had however long the books have been out, plus all the games have been focused on Geralt, like in his story, and we've kind of seen the rehashing in the Netflix series, whether you enjoy that or not. But everything, people seem to miss that Ciri is always the main character, like the anchor character of the story. She always has been. It's how Geralt, Yennefer interact around Ciri and her destiny and stuff. We've never seen Ciri past the books other than The Witcher 3, and she was a side character in that game as well, to an extent. You do play as her occasionally, but it's still Geralt's story. So I'm like really excited to see kind of what Ciri past that point is like. I know she's got the new Witcher school now, the School of the Lynx, with the new like medallion. Kelpie's back, which is her horse. I'm gonna like fangirl now for like 10 minutes, but like her horse is back. So Kelpie's her horse.
I love the horse.
Yeah,
the horse is beautiful.
That's her horse in the books. It's like she has these visions of a mystical horse, and in this, I think she takes from Geralt how he always calls his horses Roach. She always calls them Kelpie. So there's just like loads to be excited about, and her being an actual Witcher rather than this sorceress kind of Witcher-esque that she was in The Witcher 3. I think there's going to be some like really cool powers and stuff that are gonna, I don't know, like what they've got planned, but I'm just excited to see more of her story, because she is one of my favorite characters in like gaming.
I think CG Product Red always do a great job of storytelling, I think. So it's going to be very exciting. I think they'll do a good job of it. And the character models and the new engine, everything. It's all exciting.
Definitely.
We're just going to have to wait a long time.
A long time. Yeah, a long time. A long time indeed. But it just means another playthrough of Witcher 3 whilst we wait, I think. That's
gives you some time to play the 10th anniversary.
Absolutely. Get the DLCs done. For what it's worth, those DLCs are still some of the best stories in gaming. They're better than the main story, in my opinion, and Blood and Wine is like fantastic. It's so good.
Yeah. It's nice to have like extra content that's actually good. But should we move on to extra content that is more controversial, probably bad? So our next kind of podcast story this week is essentially, we're going to talk about cosmetic microtransactions in games. And this kind of came from a new League of Legends skin. Jacob is still really into League of Legends. I used to play it loads, like when it first came out. Don't really play it that much anymore. But it's a Kasai skin that's $500.
Yeah, so I mean the backstory for people who actually enjoy their life and don't play League. Last year they
You have to hate yourself to play
you
League.
have to have some level of like self, like resentment. But they inducted Faker into the Hall of Fame. So Faker is like the undisputed greatest League of Legends player of all
I
time.
think most gamers that follow any sort of esports know Faker.
Yeah.
Even if you don't know League of Legends, you definitely know Faker.
Absolutely. He just there's no one in esports like. I don't think there's ever been as dominant. There's a couple, but he is like the epitome of, and it's Korean, so esports is much bigger over there and stuff. But he got inducted last year, and he got his Ari Hall of Fame signature skin, the immortalized Ari skin. That was $500 last year as well, and it was really controversial because you're buying pixels in a game. If you read the terms and conditions in games, you don't own those pixels. The company can remove them whenever, they can change them whenever. And for all we know, League could be turned off tomorrow and you never have access to those skins again. So this year, Uzi, who's a Chinese AD carry, when I started playing, was like, he was the one you wanted to be like. His vein is legendary. Mine not so much, but him and Double Lift were kind of like those AD carries that when I was playing, I was like, I want to be like these AD carries, right? I'm also a Kai'Sa player, so I'm really torn. Mortgage in a house, pixels in a video game. It's it's kind of a tough choice at the minute.
Yeah, it's a crazy amount to spend on a cosmetic item. And we we're kind of talking about this. And to me, I've had CSGO skins because I was into CSGO I used to play it a lot before it turned to like CS2. And I had quite a lot of expensive CSGO skins. I don't think any of them were worth $500, but it was definitely like hundreds of pounds in total.
Yeah.
Probably, I don't know, if you added them all up together, it was probably over $500, but like not one individual one was worth that much. But the good thing about CSGO skins is that when you're kind of sick of them or you're bored of them, you can just sell them and you can get like most of your money back. You can trade them on Steam. Whereas like with League of Legends, that skin that you've bought is tied to your account. And like you said, if something happens to the game, that's just gone.
Yeah, or you get banned for toxicity. It's never happened to me, just for reference. But people have lost their account. Like my friends have lost their accounts with skins on and stuff. And League's just it's becoming one of those games that's becoming increasingly more and more predatory with its monetization. So they're releasing gacha skins. That they've had 3 now, and it started with Arcane Fractures Jinx. So when Arcane came out, season 2, they released a skin, and you had to roll chests to try and get it. You were guaranteed
like CS,
it. Yeah, exactly. You were guaranteed it after 200, 100 tests. I can't remember. But you had a chance to get it sooner.
100 chests.
I think so. And in total, it cost about $300. So it was slightly cheaper. But as I've played enough Jinx to know, like, the skin wasn't great. The animations were really like finicky and the way she ran was quite labored and stuff. And it just didn't look like a smooth skin to use.
Yeah.
So to spend that much for it was insane. And then they've released a couple more since, which are really bad. Like, they had to rework one of them because it was so bad, the Mordekaiser one. So there's that. They've got like chromas for skins, so literally just recolor the skin, and now they're charging money, like extortionate amounts for those.
Yeah, they used to be quite cheap back when I used to play because I have a few chromas.
Yeah.
They weren't that much. I think the most expensive skin that came out was there was like an Ezreal skin that started it all off.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that was only about £100, but everyone lost their minds when that came out.
I think the ultimate skins I think they're even like 35, like they're not even that much.
Oh, okay.
And the crazy part about that is most people who play League will know about Elementalist looks. So that's a skin where as the game goes on, you choose an element, you then upgrade to another element, they sort of fuse. There's, I think, like 16 different skins in the skin because of all the different combinations. That's only $35. This Kai'Sa skin is one skin, and it has a couple of evolves like that aren't even tied to her in-game evolve mechanic, and it's $500. It's kind of insane.
It's getting pretty crazy for some pixels. And we had like a good comparison because you told me you can actually get a model. There's a 1:6 scale statue of Kasai, and that's $300.
Yeah.
And it's like a real nice statue that you can have on your desk.
Yeah, literally. And that will never be taken away from you if Riot decide to shut down the game tomorrow.
Yeah.
So I think there's like a fear, especially at a time where, we're going through increases in costs everywhere. We've seen it in tech. The GPU market is a good example of that. Like, everything is getting more and more expensive to then demand, or not demand, because obviously it's not, these skins are cosmetic only. They don't improve in game or anything, but to then want your audience to pay so much for skins, your like loyal audience and stuff, it just feels bad. it's kind of like a kick in the
I've
teeth.
got nothing against cosmetics because I definitely, and I know because we've spoken about this before, I'm going to out you here. How much have you spent in total, do you think?
So the last time I checked, it's been a couple of years. I think we're at like £1,300 on
Which
League.
is a lot of money for cosmetic
it is
items.
a lot.
And I've bought CS skins, but I've now like managed to sell them and get my money back, which is nice. But obviously like League of Legends, I spent money on skins, but my limit's probably 50 quid or something.
Yeah.
But then that still sounds so silly.
Yeah. It doesn't make, I suppose there's two ways of thinking, but the game is free. Like it's something Call of Duty, you pay 60 quid for the game and then buy cosmetics. That feels worse. And there's that, my friends use this like £1 per hour played kind of, I think that's quite a common formula, right?
Yeah, man maths.
Yeah, it's some man maths. But I mean, I've definitely played more than 1,300 hours of League. Would I do it again if I would start a League again?
Yeah.
Probably because I have impulse issues. But, pretty colours, right?
Yeah. At least the good thing I think about cosmetic microtransactions in DLC is that it doesn't affect your gameplay. You can go on and you can play League of Legends. You can be the best player on your team. You'll probably still lose. But you will, you're not going to get any benefit really from a skin. I think there was a couple of skins maybe that sometimes the effects are slightly harder to see for the enemy and things. But really there isn't much benefit. Whereas like some games, microtransactions just, you can basically, it's pay to win, which I don't like.
Yeah. Yeah. So definitely controversial.
Yeah.
Let
us know in the comments for sure, because I'm interested on this one.
Yeah.
Like either how much you guys have spent in total on cosmetic items in games, or maybe like what's your limit of a single item, or whether you think $500 is quite reasonable.
And if you do, can you buy it for me, please?
So speaking of spending money, our next topic actually comes from Reddit. So this is on r/PC Master Race, and I saw this I guess it's like a meme, and it's basically a should you upgrade, and you've got a list of GPUs, they're all kind of color coded, and then someone's changed it. Every single color is now changed to upgrade whenever your fave games stop working. So rather than having this like arbitrary scale that's kind of like, oh, if you've got a 1080, it's red, you should definitely upgrade. It's just saying upgrade whenever your games stop working, which I think is quite fair.
Yeah,
What
it's
do you
definitely
reckon?
a healthy mindset from somewhere like Reddit, where it's normally like buy 5090 just because it's a 5090 kind of vibe. I think people are starting to realize that the generation on generation gains aren't as high as they used to be, especially when so much of it is AI powered now with DLSS and FSR and stuff. But like, why? I have this issue with tech where people just buy the latest thing because it's the latest thing. It's like, why bother? If it still works, what's the point? I'm still playing with a 3070. I only play League most of the time, but it still runs fine, right? So if you can still play your games, what's the point? Like, what is the point of upgrading? Which is, controversial take maybe, but shiny and new does not always equal better.
I'm somewhere in the middle because I'm in the field of like, if PC gaming is your main hobby and you've got the money, like why not? Why not upgrade and then you can play 4K Ultra no matter what? And no one needs 300 FPS, but if you can afford it, then why not, I suppose. But yeah, I think sometimes people, if all you play, and there's always a joke about this, is like, I bought a 5090 to browse Reddit.
Sounds about right.
And some people do that because they just want, I don't know, like the flex, I guess, of having the latest and greatest so they can show off with it, essentially. And like one of the top comments was, the 5080 Astral had pretty lights though. So it's one of
Did have pretty lights.
Yeah, sometimes you can be a bit like a magpie and you're like, I don't really need this for the games that I play, but I want it and I can afford it. So it's kind of, it's a difficult one. And I don't think you should feel like you have to upgrade and like get yourself into loads of debt just so you can get a 5090 just because that is currently the best thing. Because otherwise you'd be upgrading like every 18 months just to keep up with everything. And if you are literally playing like shooters where you really don't need a crazy RTX graphics card with all the latest AI features and things to play like CS2 or League of Legends.
Yeah, literally.
Then it's probably not worth it. But if you're trying to play like the cutting edge, I don't know, Dune Awakening is coming out soon, or it might be out now actually. And that game, I think it's definitely a 4090 is like on the recommended list, which is crazy.
I never thought I'd see a day that's recommended.
And like I'm sure when Witcher 4 comes out, it's probably the recommended might even be like a 5090 by that point.
Yep.
Because of all the ray tracing features and Unreal Engine 5 and things. So it really does depend what you're going to play, which is why that graph makes sense, I guess.
Yeah. Games are starting to come out with ray tracing like baked in as well now. So Indiana Jones did, and Doom the Dark Ages. So you're kind of forced to have good hardware to play them.
That's like when your GPU doesn't play the games anymore and it literally you can't even open them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you get the like pre-warnings about VRAM.
It's not that you're going to get 20 FPS, it's that it literally won't open.
It's becoming more and more normal, because it goes back to the conversation we had earlier, is the games are like really starting to push modern tech because they're getting to the end of the like what is capable with these new engines, and the tech is catching up. Like granted, like 50 series is catching up and stuff, but we're having to cut corners with AI features and stuff to get to where games want to be.
The games really are kind of overtaking the hardware right now.
Yeah.
Which is shocking,
definitely.
really. I don't know whether it's because a lot of people say it's because games aren't that well optimized, but I think it's just because like when you look at like the Unreal Engine tech demo, there is so much happening. Like when they zoomed out and showed the amount of foliage, like you'd never be able to have that in a game like 10 years ago, where you have each individual leaf and you have all the like real-time path ray tracing, which is insane that every single like photon is rendered and traced. It's crazy. So yeah, it's there's always this battle, isn't there, of like hardware games like fighting for dominance.
And I think that kind of comes from gamers not necessarily being entitled, but you see all the time like this game doesn't look realistic enough, or this looks unrealistic. Like that, you see those comments all the time. And I don't know about like you. I don't play games just to see real life. Again, like you're playing games to see stories that aren't real and fantasy or sci-fi or whatever. But like the game, I think developers put so much pressure on themselves to make these games look as perfect as they can, and then games that actually have cool and funky art styles kind of just get forgotten because they're not.
Yeah.
They're like hyper realistic games. So there's definitely
Borderlands. I love Borderlands art style.
Borderlands is kind of one of the exceptions though, where people love it because of the art style, I think. And maybe we'll see what Borderlands 4 is like in terms of optimizations and stuff. But this is like double-edged sword of realistic but unplayable versus, well, let's like, compromise on the mountain that's 600 miles away in the background, but the game's more playable. Like there's always going to be that like balance.
Yeah, we had it on like the previous topic, didn't we? Where it's like some people say 4K 120 hertz to them is now like their minimum. So it's depending on like, it depends what you class as your favorite game being playable. Because some people say my favorite game's not playable unless I can max everything out.
Yeah.
So therefore I need a 5090 because I'm not playing it at 1080p medium. Like I'd rather not play it. So
there's also a scary amount of people we see here who have insane PCs and then like a 1080p monitor with 60 hertz and they can't even
upgrade your monitor.
Yeah, monitors are in my opinion, I'd rather have like an OLED, 2K, 4K and 40 series than a brand new 50 series. Like it's crazy how many people do that. So.
Yeah, the display is very important alongside the actual hardware as well.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's kind of covered the topics in today's episode. So do let me know in the comments, like what you thought, maybe about when you upgrade your PC, what you spend on microtransactions in cosmetics in games, and of course, the very exciting Witcher 4. Thank you to Jacob for joining me, and I'll see you again in the next one.